Okay, deadlifts. They're great. I don't need to argue that point. They're one of the absolute best exercises, and they have a place in just about any program with any training goal. They are, however, complicated, and there's one thing that I often find clients struggling with when deadlifts first come up, and that's doing them with the proper tempo. It's not so much hitting the desired number of seconds on the way down necessarily, but what tends to happen at the very bottom of each repetition. Let's take a look at a deadlift here, and our assigned tempo is 4-1-1-0. 4 seconds down, pause at the bottom, and then up. These are pretty close, but there's one subtle thing going on here that can be tricky to identify, and it happens right at the very bottom. So we're moving with some nice control on the way down, yes, but only most of the way down. If you look really closely, what I'm showing here is that when the bar is about an inch off the floor, it drops a little bit. And this is very common, controlled for about 90% of the range, but too loose at the bottom. And if you can't quite see it, don't worry. Like I said, it's very subtle, and we're about to go through a trick that makes it much easier to identify. Now, let's take a step back here and remember why tempo is so important. Moving with control on the way down helps to keep our muscles under tension, which builds strength, builds muscle, enforces good posture, and helps our nervous system adapt to a particular lift or motor pattern. So if you move too fast at a particular spot during the lift, in this case at the bottom, we forego all of that benefit at that spot. Now, this spot with deadlifts just happens to be really important. Getting the bar moving off of the floor can be the hardest part of the lift, so we want to be darn sure that we're training that part of the range properly. Otherwise, you're not going to improve nearly as quickly as you otherwise would. So here's my go-to cue for ironing out this problem. I call it "Don't Wake the Baby." Let's go back to our previous example, and we're going to turn the sound on. And imagine that for some crazy reason, you're doing your deadlifts right next to where a baby happens to be sleeping. So listen. Hear that distinct rattling at the bottom? That's a pretty clear sign that the bar is falling too much at that very important bottom range. When you lose control at the bottom, the bar clatters and you've woken the baby. Now here's an almost identical example, except listen now. Much less noise, right? What I'm doing here is lowering the barbell with control all the way to the ground. Never letting go, never dropping the bar. It's almost like you're trying to lower the bar through the floor and maintaining your pacing the whole way. This ensures that your muscles are tensioned the whole time and you're getting the benefit of every possible millimeter of range. If you try and set the barbell down quietly, you can be sure you're doing it right, and the baby gets to keep sleeping. There it is. One of the more common issues that I see with this great exercise, and a hopefully helpful hint to make sure you're getting the most out of each individual repetition. It may make things harder, don't say I didn't warn you there, but that's because it's slightly more work. And work, well, that's why we're here, right? That's what gets results. So just remember it that way. And remember, don't wake the baby.